Have you ever scratched your head, baffled by how certain people climb to the top of the power ladder despite seeming utterly unfit for the role? We've all seen it. Individuals who appear clueless, yet somehow end up calling the shots, while those with real talent languish in obscurity. Picture Emperor Nero strumming his lyre as Rome went up in flames, or fast forward to modern times with figures like Elizabeth Holmes, who spun a web of lies into a billion-dollar empire that never delivered. It's a pattern so glaring, it almost feels like the system is rigged. But what if there's a hidden logic at play? What if the very traits we admire, like intelligence and integrity, are the ones holding capable people back? Today we're diving deep into the mind of Niccolò Machiavelli, the 16th century political genius whose razor-sharp observations still explain why the least qualified often wield the most power. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a psychological puzzle that shapes our world right now. Whether in corporate skyscrapers, government halls, or even your own workplace. The unsettling truth? Being brilliant can sometimes be your biggest obstacle to influence. By unraveling this paradox, we'll uncover the manipulative forces steering our society and arm you with insights to navigate your own journey toward impact. So, buckle up as we explore Machiavelli's world and the modern science that proves his ideas are more relevant than ever. Let's set the stage. It's the early 1500s in Florence, Italy. Niccolò Machiavelli, a diplomat and thinker, finds himself banished from the political arena he once thrived in. In exile, he pours his frustration and wisdom into The Prince, a book that shocked the world with its cold, clear-eyed take on power. Unlike the dreamy philosophers of his time, who waxed poetic about ideal rulers, Machiavelli didn't care about utopias. He studied the raw, messy reality of how power is won and kept. His golden rule? It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But there's another gem that unlocks our mystery. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see you, but few can touch you. In other words, appearances trump substance when it comes to power. And here's where we start to see why the incompetent often rise. Machiavelli noticed something unsettling. The smartest people often trip over their own brilliance in the race for power. Why? Because intelligence brings baggage, traits like self-doubt, ethical restraint, and a knack for seeing shades of gray in a world that craves black and white answers. Imagine a gifted leader stepping into a cutthroat environment. They spot complexities others miss, hesitate to make bold claims, and wrestle with their conscience. Meanwhile, their rivals charge forward, oozing confidence and tossing out simple solutions, no matter how unrealistic. In a world that rewards bravado over depth, the thoughtful leader's strengths become shackles. Let's look at history for proof. Take Socrates, the Greek philosopher whose relentless questioning made him a legend, but also got him sentenced to death by his own city. His mantra, "I know that I know nothing," was profound, but politically disastrous. Compare that to demagogues who've risen through the ages by promising the moon with unshakable certainty. A 2018 study in the Leadership Quarterly backs this up with a surprising twist. Intelligence boosts leadership success only up to an IQ of about 120. Beyond that, being too smart can make you less likely to emerge as a leader. Why? Because hyper-intelligent people often struggle to connect with others who can't keep up with their intricate ideas. It's a brutal irony. Your brain power can bench you in the game of power. So, if raw smarts can hold you back, what catapults the less capable to the top? Enter a psychological quirk that explains why we fall for the wrong leaders time and again. In the 1990s, researchers David Dunning and Justin-Kruger uncovered a phenomenon now famous as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Picture this. People with minimal skills wildly overestimate their abilities, while true experts, aware of their gaps, tend to downplay their competence. It's why the loudest person in a meeting often sounds like they've cracked the code, even if they're clueless. Shakespeare nailed it centuries earlier. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. Machiavelli would have smirked at this. He knew that projecting certainty often outweighs actual expertise in the power game. A 2021 study in organizational behavior and human decision processes found that overconfident people are more likely to be seen as leaders, regardless of their track record. Look at historical figures like General George Custer, whose brash decisions led to disaster at Little Bighorn, yet his swagger earned him rapid promotions. Or consider tech moguls like Adam Neumann of WeWork, whose grandiose vision secured billions in funding despite a flimsy business plan. Globally, this pattern holds. Japan's Masayoshi Son lost fortunes, but kept investors hooked with his charisma, while Russia's oligarchs rose through bold connections, not competence. But it's not just about confidence. There's a darker mechanism at work that locks incompetence into power structures. Machiavelli wrote, "The first opinion which one forms of a prince is by observing the men he has around him." Translation: weak leaders surround themselves with even weaker followers to shield their own flaws. Organizational psychologist Tomas Chamorro-Premuzic calls this competence threatening. Insecure bosses sideline talent that might outshine them, opting instead for loyal yes men who won't rock the boat. This creates a ripple effect where mediocrity spreads like a virus through organizations. History is littered with examples. In ancient Rome, Emperor Commodus filled his court with sycophants, hastening the empire's decline. In modern Brazil, political cronyism has long placed loyalists over experts, stalling progress. Zimbabwe's later years under Robert Mugabe saw skilled officials replaced by party hacks, tanking the economy. Ever worked somewhere where questioning the boss was taboo? That's this dynamic in action. A culture where incompetence thrives because loyalty trumps ability. So why do we keep falling for these leaders? It's not just their tactics. It's our own wiring. Humans crave certainty, especially in chaotic times. True experts, with their caveats and nuance, can leave us feeling uneasy. A 2019 study in Nature Human Behavior showed that people prefer leaders who offer simple, confident answers, even when those answers are wrong. Think about climate change debates. Scientists hedge their predictions with ranges and probabilities, while populist voices on both sides declare absolute truths, winning hearts with their clarity. In healthcare, experts weigh trade-offs, but politicians promising free everything often steal the spotlight. This hunger for simplicity gets worse in crises. A 2020 experiment at Stanford found that when faced with complex policy issues, even highly educated people twisted data to fit their biases, especially under stress. Psychologists call this need for cognitive closure, our urge to squash ambiguity with definitive answers. The more uncertain the world feels, the more we cling to leaders who project certainty, no matter how hollow their promises. It's like a mental trap, luring us toward the very incompetence we should avoid. But there's an even uglier twist. Machiavelli argued that moral principles can hamstring the intelligent in power struggles. In The Prince, he famously advised rulers to learn how not to be good when necessary. Those unbound by ethics have a playbook others can't touch: lying, betraying, or stoking division. In ancient Rome, the honorable Cicero fell to Julius Caesar, who broke every rule to seize power. Today, studies from the University of Amsterdam show that traits like manipulativeness, when paired with charm, fast-track people to leadership roles. This creates a race to the bottom, where ethical players either adapt or get sidelined. Is this just how the world works? Not entirely. Some systems are built to weed out incompetence, and understanding them offers hope. First, clear feedback loops matter. In fields like surgery or engineering, failure is undeniable. Patients die, bridges fall. Competence wins because results are measurable. But in politics or corporate games, where outcomes are murky or blame can be shifted, incompetence festers. Second, checks and balances help. Germany's dual-board corporate model separates management from oversight, curbing reckless leadership. Third, transparency matters. When success is subjective or hidden behind jargon, style beats substance. The 2008 financial crisis showed what happens when short-term flashiness trumps long-term stability. So, how do the incompetent hold on once they're in power? They're not just lucky, they're tactical. First, they weaponize tribalism, turning criticism into an us versus them battle. This makes followers feel like defending the leader is defending themselves. Look at figures like Malaysia's Najib Razak, who leaned on ethnic loyalty to dodge corruption charges, or Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro, whose polarizing rhetoric cemented his base. Second, they drown us in chaos. Endless scandals and crises that exhaust our ability to think critically. Third, they rewrite reality, flipping positions so truth feels slippery. Machiavelli called this the power of appearances, and it's why the incompetent often outlast their critics. How do we fight back? It starts with us. First, embrace intellectual humility. Admit what you don't know. A 2022 study in cognition found that humble people are better at spotting BS because they focus on evidence, not ego. Second, sharpen your media literacy. Skip the outrage cycle and seek sources with depth over drama. As philosopher Bertrand Russell said, the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts. Third, make time for reflection. The Stoics swore by nightly journaling to stay grounded. Ask, am I reacting to noise or seeking truth? On a bigger scale, we need systems that reward merit. Robust accountability, like independent boards or whistleblower protections, exposes incompetence. Cognitive diversity, teams with varied perspectives, cuts through groupthink. Transparency laws, like those mandating financial disclosures, strip away the veil of charm. Education is the glue. Teaching critical thinking and ethics, not just skills, builds societies that value wisdom over flash. Florence gave us the Renaissance by nurturing thinkers. What could we create with systems designed for truth? As we wrap up, let's revisit Machiavelli. He's often painted as a villain, but he wasn't cheering for deceit. He was dissecting it. He believed that by facing the ugly truth about power, we could build better systems. Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. Yet he also said, the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. That's our challenge, to be cunning enough to spot manipulation and bold enough to resist it. The dance of power and incompetence is as old as time, but it's not unbeatable. By understanding the psychological and structural forces at play, we can protect ourselves and reshape our world. Have you seen these patterns in your own life? Maybe a workplace where loyalty trumped talent, or a leader who thrived on chaos? Share your stories below and let's keep this conversation going. If this dive into Machiavelli's world sparked something in you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, don't just see the world, understand it.